if you have a particular gem that you would like to hear more about, or you would like to learn more, you would like to see, leave a comment below and I'll get to it. Trust me, we are leaving no rock unturned. So while you ponder on that, let's get back to the book. This was still the time before the Iranian Revolution. There was little fear with regard to being a target because I was an American. The year was 1973, and Americans in this part of the world were still welcomed with open arms. We were looked up to as a shining country everyone else in the world admired and wanted to strive to be like with all our material successes. Everywhere I went in Turkey, Iran, and Afghanistan, I was greeted with open arms, invited into homes, and asked constantly to sit and share tea or a meal. Whether it was some canvas tent in the middle of the barren land of Afghanistan, a dug-wash mud floor hut of Agra, or the home of a police chief in the jungles of southern India, I was treated as a special guest and was honored like some major dignitary. To these people in these remote places, it was considered a great honor and big deal to sit and share tea or a meal, and for me to tell stories about what life is like in America. It was an incredible experience to exchange and learn about their culture as much as they wanted to hear about my country and culture. Life in these parts of the world were still untouched by wars, terrorism, and the materialism of the West. I was getting out more about their lives and culture than they were getting from me about my life growing up in America. I was traveling in foreign exotic lands that were still the same as they had been for centuries, rural, rugged, and primitive by Western standards at that time. I was getting what my soul had been seeking the moment I set out on my journey many months ago. I had begun to find the fulfillment my heart was craving as I wandered this exotic land and the fabled spice trails of the East. Life at this time in these remote places was the same as it had been for centuries. I was living my dream the day I set out to discover what my soul and spirit were trying to get me to see in these experiences I was having. I can look back now and see how significant this journey has been in my life and how it has formed and molded my life's work. Opening to a remote, very foreign culture has had a profound impact in my life, art, and spiritual philosophy. I've learned what the true meaning of tolerance is when one steps outside their safe confines and defined culture. To be exposed to a completely different sensibility and logic to living one's life, I have come to realize there is no one way to live one's life. These experiences have had an indelible impact on my life forever. I was now living the university of life way beyond anything I could have imagined before leaving America and choosing to drop out of college. And it has continued to serve me in so many ways now that I travel to very remote and exotic places in search of gemstone material for my art. Buckminster Fuller used to use the analogy of the trim tab on a large cargo ocean vessel to how change can occur in one's life. The trim tab is a very small rudder on this huge, multi-football field-sized cargo ship. In order to make a 90-degree turn, the captain would set the rudder by only one small degree. Eventually, this immense cargo ship will be traveling in a completely different direction. Ships of this size just can't turn like you think of how you would turn the wheel of your car. One small change, that 1 degree of change in one's perception, can have a huge impact on one's life and attitude. Those years were formative in my ability to feel open and at home in so many different cultures. It is so well said in Eric Weiner's book, The Geography of Genius, quote, "For all cultures, every leap forward is preceded by an exposure to foreign ideas," found on page 55. We can see in today's world where isolationism and xenophobia is forcing countries to consider closing their boundaries, and the cry to remove foreigners from their lands. This is a very dangerous move and has only led to the collapse of cultures. History has shown it can only lead to wars and not progress of the human genius that I believe exists in each and every one of us. I believe what our world needs so desperately now is tolerance and not exclusivity. My mother at the time of writing is 101 years old. An amazing feat for this day and age. When I was speaking with her physical therapist of gerontology after she recovered from a stroke at 92, I asked him, "What do you think has been the success of my mother's amazing recovery, where many at her age would have given up and died?" His answer was to tell me about the study where they gave a series of over 200 questions to a large group of centenarians. There was only one answer that these individuals over 100 years old had in common. It was not how they ate, drank, or smoked, or how they lived their life. What they all had in common is that they were open and able to accept change, be it good or adverse in their life. To me, this has been a driving force in what my parents passed on to me. Be open, be tolerant, and be willing to change and be exposed to new ideas. I have taken this advice in my life and have incorporated it into my exploration and originality to my art. In my world travels, I am always exploring the ways of various and diverse cultures. I feel my art is a fusion of this philosophy. For those born before the 1990s, there was no internet, no mobile phones, and no faxes. To book a phone call over land and then on the transatlantic cable back home was a major effort. It was a 4-hour ride to the nearest town with a public phone, and often in remote places not very successful. In 1973, there was none of the new technology of the information age available. In my early travels over land in countries like Turkey, Iran, Afghanistan, and Pakistan, one must be open and ready for the unexpected. Gemstones seem to more often than not be found in the most remote and underdeveloped places on the planet. You are totally out there with nothing more than your own good sense and mercy of the locals. I was living on the edge of reality by the age of 20. This to me is what I've referred to as standing on the precipice as a fool. This is one of those stories that to this day has left an indelible image in my mind and has proven to be one of those character building experiences in life. I had been living in Afghanistan for just under 2 months and my visa was running out. I could no longer get it renewed, so I was forced to leave. I did not want to return to Iran, so I decided I wanted to go to India. The problem was that to get to India, I had to get through Pakistan during what was called then the Islamic Conference. It was being held at the time in Pakistan. All the Islamic nations would be gathering in one of its hosting countries. It was just after the Munich massacre, so the Islamic countries were afraid of some form of reprisal. So Pakistan decided that it would close its border to any foreigners entering for 30 days. In order for me to get to India, I had to travel through Pakistan right about this time. I was given a transit visa to enter Pakistan on or before a certain day in order to pass through Pakistan to get to India. With a handful of other Westerners, we all got on this bus in Kabul to get us to the Pakistan border before it closed in 2 days. It appeared not to be an issue since one could travel from Kabul to the Khyber Pass, the border, in less than 1 day. Halfway there, of course, the bus breaks down. So we frantically look for options to get us to the border before it closes. And for me, it was also an issue of my visa expiring within a couple days as well. After being stuck in the hills above Kabul with a broken down bus, we were able to flag a lorry that would drive us to the border. Now, it was a race to get there before 5 o'clock that day in order to enter into Pakistan before our transit visa was no longer valid. We arrived at the border literally at 5:15 that day. Realizing we were 15 minutes late, we pled with the Afghani border police to let us through. They told us that if the Pakistani border is willing to let you through tonight, we will let you exit Afghanistan tonight. They tell us they will phone the border patrol on the Pakistan side to see if they will let us in tonight. About 10 minutes later, they come out of their offices and tell us that the Pakistan side said that they will let us through tomorrow morning with our visas, even though the visa was good only until today. We all felt relieved and enjoyed our night on the Afghanistan border, feeling confident we would be able to transit into and through Pakistan the next morning. Awakening early the next morning, we get our passports stamped as we exit Afghanistan and walk a quarter of a mile of what is called no man's land. This no man's land is neither Afghanistan nor Pakistan, but literally no man's country with barbed wire on both sides and guns pointed at each other. When we reach the Pakistan side, we present our passports. The first thing we hear is, your visas are invalid. They expired yesterday. We're shocked. We tell them that the Afghanistan Border Patrol said they had called last night and that you said you would still let us in this morning. What came next was a complete shock. The Pakistani Border Patrol, known famously as the Kaifa Riflemen, kindly explained that they have no phone line with the Afghani patrol border guards. We had been totally played by the Afghani guards. What came next was a total disbelief, because